Hey there. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hi, how's it going? Oh my gosh, what's up with that hair? Oh my gosh. Come on. Crazy hair. Hey, it's Thursday morning, March 26th. Oh my gosh, what is up with that one bit right there? I need a haircut. I need a haircut. And right now there we go. We got it in place. We got it in place. Live TV people, this is working without a net because the net never shows up for these broadcasts. Longtime viewers of my live streams know this. We're continuing the Post-it Pop Art Challenge here, where I'm drawing a superhero on a Post-it note during this coronavirus stay-at-home season. So hopefully if you're at home and you're just hanging out, thanks for hanging out with me. Hopefully you have fun. Feel free to draw along. You don't have to draw on a Post-it note. You don't have to use the same tools I do, but please do draw along and have fun with me. So yesterday on Twitter, I asked the Twitterverse, which of these last two Marvel superhero teams would you like me to draw a character from? And the last two were Avengers and Defenders, and the Defenders won out. So we're going to draw Valkyrie from the Defenders, and then tomorrow will be Avengers. So let's flip the camera around and let's start drawing Valkyrie. Just got to readjust the rig as always. And I need to get my light fixed here. One moment, gang. So sorry. Got to find the plug thingy. There we go. Sorry about that. All right. So, move the camera in a little bit closer. Swing glide around. Annette does need to help me out. Yes, she does. She needs to show up in the studio for these live streams. I don't know why I keep her on the payroll. Okay. Thank you for your patience, everyone. So, starting with my trusty rusty Uni Kuratoga 0.3 HB lead mechanical pencil. And on a 3" by 3" Post-it note, we're going to start to rough in the basic shape. So that circle to get the skull going. Pulling down the sides a little bit. Then angling towards the chin to get that basic head shape. She has a bit more of a kind of a broader shaped face. So I don't want it to be too slender, but I don't want it to be too wide. So I'm just going to keep sketching and sculpting here till I get it to right about where I think I feel comfortable with it. Draw that center line down her face. Then halfway from the top of the head to the chin, we're going to drop in that eye line. Then halfway from the nose to the chin, or the eye line to the chin, the nose line, and about halfway from the nose to the chin, the mouth line. Let's see. Start to work in the eyes here. The space in between the eyes. Actually, the space between the side of the head to the eye to the middle to the eye to the middle is all about one eye's width. So it's like you can draw 5 similarly shaped sized eyes, and you've got your basic proportions there. I like to pull down from the center of the eye to find the width of the mouth. Drawing a little diamond there for the tip of her nose. Start to render out these eyes just a little bit more. And then for the mouth, that little trough between the nose and the top lip. And kind of this butterfly bow sort of shape. I don't know if butterfly is the right word. I just tend to think of that like a kind of a side of a butterfly wing. So just getting the foundation that I can then build her face from. Hairline from the eye line to the top of the head, about midway, would be about where the hairline is. Now she has her hair parted on the side. Now I'm doing classic. I'm doing like vintage classic Brunhilde Valkyrie, the blonde one. And she has her hair covered. The major part of her hair comes over and covers one eye, and then swoops down into these braids. So I'm going to get her neck and shoulders in here. Need to know where those are. This is called drawing all the way through. I want to have the full head. I want to know where the top of my skull is, so that as I draw the hair, I am putting it on top of a head. I would say it's not ideal to draw a face and then start drawing hair from it, because I could cut too early and it cuts off the top of her head and it doesn't look like there's a full head underneath. I like to know where the neck and shoulders are. So as I have the hair fall down, I know how it's going to layer on top of those shoulders. And then we'll start the braids right there. Just kind of got that segmented metal collar from her armor. And then we're going to pull the other side down. For people who find it challenging to draw hair, because drawing hair is a challenge, I like to look at real life. I like to look at real life hairstyles and then study the shapes they make. It's like breaking the hair down into these big chunky shapes and then working in some wisps of hair to kind of give it that flowing texture. So it's a kind of a puzzle of big chunky shapes broken down into finer wisps. And that kind of helps me get some, I hope would be somewhat believable hairstyles going on. Well, let's see, she has her cape, her blue cape. And we'll just have those over her shoulder there. So the nice thing about Brunhilde here is that I only have to worry about drawing one eyeball, because the other one is pretty much covered up by her hair. So I really want to make the most of this one eyeball here. In fact, where's my eraser? I want to create a little more real estate here for me to work with. Render out those eyelashes a bit, a little highlight, pupil right there. Just to double check my math. More of kind of a serious look for her. Don't want to have her doing a big smile. I think someone was saying, isn't Valkyrie technically an Avenger? You know, I am behind on my Avenger readings, so I don't know if she is currently an Avenger, but I would say she is definitely a Defender, because she appeared in many, many, many issues of the Defenders and the 80s New Defenders. So most every Marvel superhero is a member of multiple teams. Wolverine is probably a member of some of the most teams, being X-Men, Avengers, X-Force, Weapon X, etc. Fantastic Four, technically he's been a member of the Fantastic Four. Spider-Man has been an Avenger, a member of the Fantastic Four, even a teacher at the Xavier School. So, so I guess technically we could probably say almost every Marvel hero has been on more than one team at one point in their career. But she's definitely a Defender, and I believe Defenders might be the very first team that she joined. All right, so got the pencil lines done. So I'm going to go to my microns. Going to start with the 0.8 here, and we're going to drop in the inks. So I'm going to start with the hair because it's in the foreground. So it's going to overlap the most stuff. So I'm looking at that first base chunk shape. So we have the outer part of the hair and then the inner part of the braid that falls behind her jaw and lays over her shoulder. Let's tackle this side of her hair next. And I'm going to curve it around to the part on the side, which has been established in the classic 1970s design for Valkyrie. So I prefer working foreground to background for the most part. Whatever is most in front, it's easier for me to draw that first so I know what's overlapping other stuff. I'm just pulling to the lines to where the hair meets the head, the hairline. Or depending on, but like from here I want to pull towards the braid. So always keeping in mind the shapes as well as the strands. A little bit of a jawline. Maybe we'll see a little bit of the bottom part of her earlobe there. Just ride that jaw right there. Ride the line, I should say. Start working in the braid. We're going to do like these kind of straps, those brown straps, sort of braids. And then we have hair inside. Then more concentrated lines here on the underside of the braid, closer to her head and neck, because there's less light hitting there. So it gives a sense of depth. And graphically, we have like these big open shapes, but then we have these tinier segments here, these more hair strands. And it creates a little more shadow, kind of lets the face pop off of her hair. Kind of creates the depth. I guess depth is the word I'm looking for. Do I have any tips for drawing hair? Well, you tuned in at the right time. I'm sharing my tips right now. If you missed the beginning part of this video, make sure you watch the replay, come back and watch the replay, and pick up on some of the tips I've been sharing here. Absolutely. Welcome. Start to get this braid going. Let's get this jawline. And chin figured out. There we go. So continuing that, just as I did on this side, do the same for this side. More strands to create more depth. less light is getting here, so it's going to want it to give that sense of a bit more of a shadow. So, and we have more hair on this side because of the part. So, just thickening out that line to create a little more shadow against the face. So you can see where her eye is underneath there. I want to go ahead and sketch the eye in so that when I draw the hair over it, I know that there is an eye that would be behind there. So everything fits the way it should. Speaking of eyes, let's go ahead and ink her eyes. Going to switch to a 0.1 micron, a little thinner of a tip. Get that almond shape eye going. I'm going to beef up the line for the top of the eye, the lashes. Pull a few extra lashes right there. And for the bottom, don't do a line all the way through. Kind of leave it a little open and let the color finish off the shape. And the eyebrow. Kind of giving a bit of an arc to her brow. How many hours does it take to finish a whole comic page? Depends on the page. I spend about anywhere from 8 to 14 hours a day working on pages, depending on the deadline, depending on what's going on in the page. Try to average around 10 hours a day working on my pages. And I guess it takes me about, I'd say, a day to pencil a page, a day to ink a page or so. So it could take me anywhere from, I'd say, 10 to 20 hours to pencil and ink a page, depending on what's on the page. Some pages are easier, some pages are more difficult. That's a really rough estimate there. But I'd say, yeah, depending on the page. It's really hard to say because some pages I have, you know, big crowd scenes, which can take a lot longer to work on. Some pages are just two characters talking, which can be far easier to draw. So it's really kind of hard to say. But essentially, I get a full comic book done in 4 weeks, and that's a 20-page comic book. And I work anywhere from an average of maybe 10 hours a day, if that helps the math. But I can't say it's X number of hours every day for each page. Like it's not the same every day. Let's get this silver collar here. Just go ahead and fill this little spot in black for her bodysuit. Okay, so now we need to finish off some of the details of her face. Going to go to the 005. And we're going to put in the iris, the color part of the eye, and the pupil. And the top part of the eyelid. A few little lines there for the cheek definition. Not going to use a lot of lines for her nose, just mostly on the bottom here. And the nostrils. Want to keep the lines very, very light and loose, or not loose, but minimal. Light and minimal. I want to maintain strength in her face, but also want to maintain a sense, an aspect of femininity. So it's a really challenging line to walk. I don't want her to look like the Hulk by adding too many lines or too drastic of angled shapes. But I don't want her to look like Betty from the Archie comics, where it's too cute. So I want there to be a strength and an aspect of beauty. Not to say those two aspects don't go hand in hand. Not saying that at all. Because they very much can, and oftentimes do. Okay. So I think we've got the, well, you know what, I want to put a few, put some kind of silvery reflected texture. So I'm going to use my zebra brush pen to kind of create some reflected shapes. Because the silver is shiny, so it's going to reflect the world around her. And that was the zebra brush pen, the medium brush pen. Give that a moment to dry. And we can take either my, let's see, oh, there's my plastic eraser. So I'm either going to use a little bit of my Staedtler Mars plastic eraser and this kneaded art gum eraser. I'm going to start with the kneaded art gum eraser first. See how much we can pull up with this. So remember that eye I drew in there? We're just going to take it right out. It was just a guideline eye. Don't need it anymore. It just gets obliterated. And that's okay. It served its purpose. It served its purpose. Have I ever spilled anything on a comic book page? I have not that I can recall. I can't recall having spilled anything on a comic book page to where I like completely ruined it and had to start over. I don't think I've ever had that experience, which I'm very thankful for, and hope that that never ever happens. Okay. But I have heard about that happening. I know that happened at a convention for a friend of mine. Someone spilled their lemonade onto his table, ruined the art some of the art that was on his table. I think it ruined some of the art. I might be confusing that with another story of open liquid at a convention, but definitely ruined the piece that he was working on. And it was heartbreaking. It was the big story in Artist Alley that day. So, gang, if you're at a convention, please do not set your beverages on an artist's table. If you're in Artist Alley, do not put your beverage, especially if it's an open container beverage, on the artist's table. If you need to get your money out because you're going to buy something, please, please, please put your beverage, your bottle, your cup, your mug, put it on the ground. Put it on the ground. Please do not put it on our table. We have seen spills happen at conventions. We think, oh, nothing bad will happen. I've got the lid on tight, and the lid's not tight. It gets knocked over, ruins the artist's prints, artwork, etc. So please don't do it. It's heartbreaking. All right, time for colors. Time for colors. I'm working on blue paper here, so I'm going to use colors a little darker than I would if it was white paper. So I'm going to start with an E02. I'm going to sculpt in the darker parts. Not necessarily a shadow. It would be where shadows fall. We will come in with the cool gray markers, like I often do. Almost always do now that I think about it, to do the kind of more realistic shadows. But we're going to first layer in some different shades of skin tones for her. And then we're going to go to some E00. Actually, let's go to E01. I'm going to do a very subtle gradation. So just sculpting the planes of the face. Mentioned this in other videos, the cheek, the forehead, under the eyelid, or under the eyebrow, bottom of the eyelid, the nose, the nostrils, the chin. They're all different angles of the face. So continue to study your anatomy, study your characters, study facial features, and learn the planes of the face. And then that can help you in your rendering with line and with color when you go to create your illustrations. So that was some E00 there. I'm going to come in with some R20. I'm going to add some pink to her nose. A little pink to the chin. A little pink to the cheeks and right up there by the eye. When do I get new supplies? It's not a dumb question at all, or a stupid question. It's not a stupid question at all. When do I get supplies? Really, it depends on how busy I am and how frequently I run out of whatever it is I'm using. Because it all happens at different times. I run out of artboard, I run out of marker ink, I run out of pencil lead, I run out of inking pens. So I buy my stuff by the bulk. I'll buy boxes of these pens, like 2 boxes at a time, to keep me well supplied through much of the year as possible. So I tend to buy supplies 2-3 times a year, and I buy them in big bulk. All right, so let's color the eyeballs now. So we're going to start with some B14 for her blue eyes. Going to start with some dark blue right there on that part of the eye. Then we're going to come in with some B01 for the bottom to have these 2 tones of blue to give her eyes some nice shape and vibrancy. Let's color those lips. Start with some RV95. It's kind of a darker pink, very dark pink. In fact, I think some people might say it's almost like a mauve. Almost heading towards a purple sort of family. And then some RV32. Not going for like a real big red here for her lips. That would be almost the wrong color for her lips. I don't think she'd be wearing that shade of lipstick. I want more of kind of a natural look to her lips, which I think the pinks achieve that. Let's see, let's come in with a little bit of almost like an eyeshadow, just a little darker on the around the eyes. So a little E13. And let's see, we have her hair here. So let's come in and do the blonde hair. I'm going to work from dark to light. I'm going to start with some E84. It's kind of, this color is called khaki. I like to start with some this kind of it's almost in the brown family, but not a full-on brown. It's like I said, it's like a khaki color. And all the real shadowy areas, definitely want to use this there. Or the parts furthest away from the light, which would be towards the bottom of the braid. Just pulling up towards the up the hair, like, and towards the part, like in the part there, for sure, because it's closer to the root of the hair. A little bit of this inside these braided bands. We'll have some brown there for the straps of the bands. You're live on Instagram telling people to watch me while it doesn't end yet. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you hyping my channel. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thanks for getting the word out. So some Y21 Just going to go over that khaki color with this light shade of yellow called Buttercup Yellow. Never really call out the names of these Copic sketch markers. Oh, I'm using Copic sketch markers if I didn't say that before. You can use whatever you have on hand. Colored pencils, crayons, watercolor, other brands of markers. Totally fine. Main thing is that we're all creating here. But yeah, I always call out the number codes, but never the names. And then we're going to finish with some very, very light yellow, some Y00, just to blend it on through. Really want to use the openness of the artboard, or of this paper here. If I was on white paper, we'd have a lot of white on there, but here it's going to be the blue. And it gives a sense of the highlight. See, I was working towards this area here. This ring here is where the light would hit for the most part. Kind of creating a healthy sheen and bouncing body to her hair. Pantene Pro V style right there. Let's go ahead and put it, color in those bands on her hair, her braids. So I'm going to bring in some E34, kind of a light shade of brown. This might be the very first time I've drawn this character. I'm not sure if I've ever drawn Brunhilde Valkyrie before. Some E55, a little bit of a darker shade. So this might be the first time I've drawn her, at least that I can remember drawing her. How come the markers don't bleed on this paper? Like bleed out from where I'm coloring? I don't know. It does bleed underneath. You can almost see it bleeding through, but it like bleeding out, I'm not sure. Just hasn't really happened for me. At least hasn't happened yet, I should say. Let's color her cape. Let's come in with some B04. Gonna work dark to light. So we're gonna start here and pull towards her shoulders, the outer part of her shoulders. So the light would be hitting down on her shoulders. So starting with some B04 and then some B02. We'll just leave it open at the very edge here. The very edge we won't bother to color in. We'll leave that open for what our color has transitioned to. And then let's see. Let's color her silver neck metal thing, neck armor. Going to start with some neutral gray 4. We're going to work dark to light. So these lines I put in here for the reflection of the horizon around her, the world around her. Just going to start putting some dark in there. Maybe a little bit under there for the chin shadow. And work our way lighter. So I started with some neutral 4. Let's power down to the neutral 2. Did I major in any fine art program to become a comic book artist? No, I did not. I did go to art school. I studied commercial art and graphic design at the Art Institute of Dallas, from Dallas, Texas. I'm a native Texan. And I applied what I learned there to drawing comics. They did not teach anything about drawing comics, but they taught life drawing, they taught design, they taught perspective. So a lot of the classes I had there, I had illustration classes, many life drawing classes. Things I learned there, I applied towards comics. I found a way, how can I utilize this information in the chosen field I want to pursue? So I had to be a real self-starter and kind of teach myself how to draw comics based on what I was learning in commercial art and graphic design. And it paid off. A year after I graduated is when I got hired full-time. I even got my first gig while still in art school. So it all worked out, thankfully. So let's add some realistic shadow to her now. So we're going to start with some cool gray 2 for some shadow for over the skin tones. And we're going to put this cool gray 2 in places that, like with the hair overlapping, definitely want gray there. Creates that shadow, creates that depth. Just riding right along this line here, keeping in mind the planes of the face. Gonna put some gray underneath that back part of the hair. Maybe a little bit under the eye too. Riding down that cheek. Definitely underneath the nose, that nostril. Here in the top lip, because the angle of the top lip would have more shadow, and the bottom of the bottom lip would have more shadow. Just a little teeny bit right there under at the bottom of the chin. Kind of running some gray down the bridge of the nose to the tip of the nose. Just layering in some more gray there just to kind of pump it up rather than go to a darker gray just yet. So I'm here at the bottom of the braid, heading up towards her hair, a little bit underneath where the hair folds over, a little bit in the part. So just slowly sculpting in the shadow as necessary. I am going to come in with a little cool gray 3 for some heavier shadow areas like under the nose, inside the lips there, a little bit under the eye. Let's put some of this in the cape here. Not a lot, don't need a lot, just some. And then I'm going to go with some really dark gray here for the eye. We're going to do that same technique. If you've seen my post-it videos before, you know the trick I'm going to be doing here. Putting some really dark gray, far darker gray than I would if it was white paper. We'll have the colored pencil trick coming up soon. Let's create a little bit of a fade here in the background. And I want to try something a little different, I think. I think some of these bluish purples might make for an interesting fade. So I'm going to go for a BV25. And I'm going to start pulling the colors down. This is a BV34. Just really letting the brush tip create some of these chunky shapes that can blend through, just to create a textured sort of fade behind her. So this is the BV11. And then a little V01, very, very light shade of purple to kind of finish it off. All right, so let's see. I'm going to take my white colored pencil. This is a Derwent Inktense pencil that I've been using for quite some time that I've rubbed off the logo. I'm going to color over that gray in the eye and the open area there to make a full white eyeball. Going to use this to put a little highlight at the tip of her nose. Maybe a little highlight on her lip. A little bit there on the cheek. I'm going to use this on the silvery metal here. Just going to do this in most of the area here, just to give it a really kind of white silvery sort of look. Even coloring over the gray. There we go. And now it's time for the finishing move, gang. If you're new to my channel, then you might not know what my finishing move is. It is the Uniball Signo white gel pen. My favorite of gel pens. I'm just gonna put a white line around the perimeter, bringing the white right next to the black line, not over the black line, so I don't lose those line weights. Because I like the pop that the white line gives the character on this colored paper. It's become a signature move for me. Pretty much every single post-it note I've done has this white outline. I have an album of post-it notes on my Art of Todd Nauck Facebook page. Maybe I'll put a link. I'll put a link to that album, or I'll do my best to put a link to that album in the video description below a little bit later on. Let's put a little white highlight here in her eyeball. A little white highlight I'd drawn in. We're just gonna put a little white there. Gonna put another little dot on that side, right there. And this shot of Valkyrie is done. Let's put my signature on here. We'll just run it right here along the side. And today's date, what did I say today's date was? I always forget the date. The 26th, that's right, Thursday the 26th of March, 2020. And there we go, Valkyrie. Could very well be, most likely is the first time I've drawn this character, and I gotta say she is a lot of fun to draw. I really, really did enjoy drawing Valkyrie here. In fact, let's put, I want to beef up that highlight just a little bit more. There we go. Let's flip the camera around and we'll close out the show here. Let me readjust the lighting and the rig. One moment, everybody. Okay. Clamp back in. All right, thanks so much for hanging out, everyone. Did I use any other markers than Copics? I colored strictly with the Copic markers. I inked with the Pigma Micron pens and the Zebra brush pen, and those are the tools that I used, as well as my mechanical pencil. So I try to list all the tools that I use in each video and live stream as I use them. So gang, I hope you're having a good time. Hopefully you're staying safe out there during this coronavirus season. You know, keep that 6-foot radius from people, especially strangers. You want to stay as healthy as possible. Wash your hands regularly. Avoid touching your face if you haven't washed your hands, especially because the eyes, nose, mouth can be very vulnerable areas for the virus. Entry points. We want to keep the entry points. So we touch a lot of things. So let's try to avoid touching our face. And the thing you should be touching, your drawing tools. Draw, create, have fun, and share your art online if you can on your social media. And if you'd like, feel free to tag me at Todd Nauck on Twitter and Instagram. And I'm using the hashtag #PostItPopArt and hashtag Todd Nauck Art Challenge. This is on my Instagram. And I'll have a shot of her on my Instagram, and I'll have a link to this in the video description here a little later on today. If you're watching this on replay, I will try to get that on there, hopefully by the time you're watching it on replay. But golly, I did have a lot of fun drawing this. So good to hang out with you. I hope you're staying safe. Hopefully you're staying well. Hopefully you're staying entertained. And hopefully maybe you learned a little something from today's live stream. I am doing these Post-it note live streams every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, that'd be 11 p.m. Central, or 11 a.m. Central, so sorry, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern, and 4 p.m. Greenwich. For those of you internationally, you can calculate your time zone from the 4 p.m. or 16 o'clock, is that 16? Yeah, 16 o'clock Greenwich time. And yeah, thanks so much for joining me. I'll be here tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Smash that subscribe button. Tap the bell to set your notifications to alert you that for my next scheduled art live stream or any videos I might post in the future. And feel free to give me a thumbs up if you like this video and leave a comment in the comment section below. I do get a chance to read them, even if I don't get a chance to reply to them all. I do appreciate your support. Thanks so much, everybody, and I hope to see you again tomorrow morning. Till then, I'll be drawing an Avenger. That's right, tomorrow's Avenger Day, so we've gotten the X-Men done, the Fantastic Four done, and that's just one character from these teams just this week. I'll have all new characters to draw next week, but today was Defenders and tomorrow is someone from the Avengers. Not sure who yet. I have a couple of people in mind. We'll see when I schedule the live stream. But guys and gals, I got to get to work, so I hope you're doing well, and I'll talk to you again soon. Keep on drawing, keep having fun. I'm Todd Nauck. Take care.